Yes, we are back. It's Formula One weekend again. We're at the Chinese Grand Prix. This is the F1 Flaming Tarmac episode 64. This is the Chinese Grand Prix and it's the first sprint weekend. This is round 2 as well of the Formula One calendar. But before we get into the review, before I bring in my who's my partner in crime, TOTO Hammer, remember these episodes are on the iTunes podcast and Spotify and Stitcher and wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be on there. We'll be uploading them tonight. So if you can't watch us on the YouTube, you can always listen to us through the car or on your speaker, wherever you are, even on your phone or even on your Alexa. Just say to your Alexa, F1 podcast, Solo P1, and it will pop up. Big up to the man them, big up to the woman them. So I'm going to bring in my who's my partner in crime, TOTO Hammer.
Yeah, big up, man.
There you go. That was very fast. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, doing well, man. Just been settling down, keeping an eye on the Formula One news. Of course, there's one thing I want to point out in the video, of course.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
But yeah, overall, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing really well. Just happy to be on here as always. Of course, smash the like button, man, and smash the subs because we're slowly increasing the subs. So thank you for the support, people. But yeah, doing all fine.
So, Toto, what we're going to talk about now. Listen, what do you think of last week? We're going to briefly go over last week what happened at the Australian Grand Prix because this is more about the Chinese Grand Prix. So we've only got so many minutes that we're going to do is put on the iTunes podcast. But what was your thoughts on last week? Your overall thought on last week? The eventual winner being Lando Norris.
Yeah, I thought it was an absolute amazing Grand Prix last week. I think there was a lot of action involved. Not so much for the first 20, 25 laps, but I think as soon as the rain started to come into play with the race, rain going on and off, showering, not showering. So it was really chaotic, with the Ferrari strategy, which was was all over the place. Why couldn't it just stay out? I don't know. McLaren reacting fast. Lando Norris, you can see glimpses of Lando Norris improving his strategy. He learned his lesson after last year, which is always good because Norris has a really, really good chance to win the title. McLaren looks so fast. I know it's the first race. But
it's the first race.
Quick.
So
overall, it was a good Grand Prix and lots of strategy involved. Yeah.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna big up to the chat room. We've got Waniak, big up to you, big up to the man them. Welcome to this F1 stream. Everyone is hyping up Ferrari. Up to much great drivers, but strategy needs to. That's always been Ferraris. This is for people who listen on the iTunes and then on the podcast. We're actually responding to chats in the chat room through YouTube, so bear with us. Going to give 2 or 3 for a final verdict. Okay, so this is the Chinese Grand Prix, Toto. This year's, I would say a lot of slow speed corners, which I know you like being a go-kart yourself. So going into this weekend, Toto, what are your thoughts? And we'll talk about the Lewis stuff after. What's your thoughts on the Grand Prix of the Chinese Grand Prix? What's your, I would say, kind of prediction, but what's your thoughts on this?
I think
Grand Prix weekend.
We've missed it a bit because we haven't been in Formula One for quite some time. It's finally back, and it's unusual really to have the Chinese Grand Prix this early into it. Usually Bahrain and all that, yeah. It's very, very unusual. But the overall Chinese, I think the track alone,
last year. Didn't it return last season? I'm not sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it was last year. I don't know.
Go on.
But if it is this season, we have missed it because we haven't had it in quite some time. But it's glad to be back here. The track as a whole, I think going into the first corner, usually a lot of crashes happen.
Yeah.
That long bend, and sometimes not all the drivers can fit in one track. And of course, it's going to be overtaken in the first corner. So every single time, every single season, without fail, there's always crashes going into turn 1, which is really, really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Drivers going wide onto the grass. Because it's a bend in it. It's like an uphill bend, and it goes downhill, and it goes to another downhill bend. But it basically goes downhill again, and then it's back to flat surface. So it's a kind of track that's got, I don't know what the word is. the service just alternates in height.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So yeah, turn one definitely is going to be chaotic. That, of course, that long straight, which is going to be a lot of overtaking opportunities. That's going to be interesting as well. You know, because if you're in that DRS zone at China, right, and you get on that straight, there's a huge chance for an overtake. Of course, dive bombs as well. Again, that long straight before that heavy braking zone, a lot of crashes happen there as well because people are going fast and fast, and then they're suddenly put on the brakes, a lot of lockups or brake tests or whatever like that. Yeah. So China is always interesting to watch. It's always interesting. It's a kind of like a power circuit. It's kind of again these slow speed corners like bend, straight, bend, maybe really straight, but usually it's
I would agree. I think it has got it has a couple of long straights on there, a lot of slow speed corners. It is a lot of drivers do like this circuit. I wouldn't say it's on the top of their list, but a lot of drivers do like this circuit. But I think, look, we haven't. I'm not sure if we went there last season, but the cars are bigger. The last time the Chinese Grand Prix was here, even if it wasn't last year, the cars are bigger now. So, I mean, when you was talking about the first bend, there's a potential that there could be crashes because the cars are a lot bigger. And there's going to be a lot of drivers that want to stick their nose in front regarding the car. Not literally their nose, but you know what I'm saying. They want to stick the nose of the car in front. So, but as I see, the first straight of the Chinese Grand Prix, if I recall, I don't think it's that big. You know, when the first start, lights out of the way we go. I don't think the first corner to the first bend is that big. So that's going to make it interesting. So it's not necessarily, even if you've got, I would say if you've got pole, you got an advantage, obviously. In certain tracks like Spa, even if you got pole, it kind of favours the guy who's got second, because once you go the Rouge, you got that big long run you can overtake. I remember when Vettel did that with Lewis Hamilton a couple of years ago, when Lewis got pole and then Vettel second, and then when I got on the straight, Vettel just passed him. But with this Chinese Grand Prix, they haven't got that luxury. So I would say whoever gets pole really has got the advantage. So I think with this car, with this circuit, it might favour McLaren and Red Bull, the old Red Bull car, I would say, because if you remember the old Red Bull car, they used to be really good at the slow speed corners and getting around the corners. This is where they used to make their time up. Ferrari as well this year. Ferrari, their car is kind of good in the corners, in the slow speed corners. So this might favour their car as well. But it's going to be an interesting race. I'm not sure who I think is going to win. It's one of those circuits. If it was something like Silverstone or something like Spa, I would say, yeah, probably McLaren. But with a circuit like China, it could be the top four. It could be Mercedes, could be Ferrari, could be McLaren. You know what I'm saying? It could be any of them teams. Ferrari could be in there. So it's an interesting race. And I'm looking forward to it because it's a sprint weekend. And you know what, Toto? I'm not sure how you feel about it, but with a sprint weekend, I'd rather sprint weekends than having multiple practice sessions. So what's your thoughts on the sprint weekend?
Well, the only thing I don't like is the timing of it. I just want to get out of these. I want to get out of these tracks, man. And it's always the first start of the season. There's always a timing issues and stuff like that, and getting up early. I just don't like.
When they get back to European time, don't you?
Yeah. So I can stay in bed and stuff like that. But look, jokes aside, sprint weekend I always like. There's a lot of action, and especially in the sprint race where it's just you're on soft tires or even inters, whatever the condition's going to be. It's most likely going to be dry, so people on a soft tire just going at it. There's no strategy, there's no tactics, there's no team orders. Go out there and just give it your all and just race to the best of your ability. There's no, we've got to conserve fuel, conserve ERS. Yeah, you got to conserve ERS, but not that much, because most of the time they're going to be going for the overtakes, and they're most likely going to be in DRS zones. So with racing, it's more of a longevity. Yeah. More of like a strategy. That's where the strategy gets involved. But in sprint racing, it's more of the driver, not really the strategist. Maybe the strategist only gets involved to even call him in the pits, but that's it. Like,
I think the sprint race is I kind of agree, because obviously we know when it comes to a sprint race, there's no pitting. It's just a straight shoot. If I was a strategist, I would just say use the medium tires. That'd be the best strategy, in my opinion. I wouldn't use the soft tires because usually at the end, the tires, the last 5 laps, they tend to like fall away, the tires. But in most likely, they're going to probably use the medium tires. I'm not sure how the weather's going to react, how the weather's going to be in the weekend. I haven't really checked, but I'll probably check in a minute. I'll tell you what the weather's going to be like. But overall, yeah, I prefer the sprint race because it's something to look forward to instead of having practice 1, practice 2, and then Saturday have the practice 3, then qualifying, then race. No, this is better. Yeah. You got 1 practice, then you got a sprint qualifying on the Friday, and on the Saturday you get a qualifying and you get a sprint race. So that's very good. And then when it comes to the Sunday, we've got the main race. So I'd really love the sprint weekends.
Yeah, I'm
looking at this track and I was thinking, you could have picked a better circuit to have a sprint weekend on. For me, and I'll continue to say, and I'm not saying it because I'm British. I think the best sprint race, the 2 best sprint races, was at Silverstone and Brazil. They were the 2 best sprint races. Now, I don't know. The first one, remember the very first sprint race was at Brazil. So I'm very, hopefully this season, I'm not sure if you can find out for us, Toto, you know, the sprint races for the year. I know they've already allocated them. I don't know where they are. Hopefully this year they got one at Silverstone because I think the Silverstone was really good for sprint races. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the Silverstone, it's an overall dynamic and balanced track. That's what I like about Silverstone. Most of all, it's just fast spins and straights. That's all it is. Of course, you've got Maggotts and Beckett. Again, they're fast spins as well. Yeah. Most of the time, you can go flat out there. Of course, I think the last Maggotts and Beckett, you have to lift a bit, but usually like a little.
Not these cars, though.
It's just a slight lift, and that's it. So
like a slalom skier.
Yeah, so it's gonna be really balanced, dynamic, Silverstone. And
so what's your thoughts on having a sprint weekend at China? You think it's the ideal circuit? They could have chose a better one, but you know it is what it is.
I don't think it's.
I don't think it is either. Is it? Really, yeah.
There's not really a lot. Yeah, there is overtaking opportunities on that big long straight, and of course the main straight.
I think, I don't think they could have chose a better. They could have chose a better circuit for the sprint weekend. Let's be honest. The circuit that you pick is the ones what you can overtake.
Yeah,
they're the circuits that you choose. Spa, perfect. You can overtake at Spa. Silverstone, you can overtake at Silverstone. Suzuka, that's another one. Suzuka, you could pick Suzuka for a sprint weekend. Circuits like that, but China, not so much in my opinion. So, Toto, while you get that ready for the sprint weekend, I want everybody to smash the like buttons. I want to big up to everybody. Smash the like buttons, and remember, these episodes are going on iTunes and Spotify as a podcast. So if you can't watch us on YouTube, remember to go over to your iTunes and type in F1 Flaming Tarmac, and then you'll see. We'll try and get the link. We'll get the picture of it so you can find it if you can't find it. And big up to everybody. So, Toto, did you find it?
There's no sprint weekend for Silverstone.
Okay, then. So, do you know the circuits that they've picked?
So no, don't show me on here, but.
Go on. Doesn't matter. Let's talk about yourself. I'll find it. Go and talk about the Hamilton. Have you got anything that you can put up on the screen to show us about what's happening with Hamilton?
I could talk about it. I can talk about it. I can talk about it. So basically, Lewis Hamilton, you know how he's always nice to the interviewers, and he's always like, he doesn't put any negativity on there, but the whole talk about is all of a sudden Lewis Hamilton has got his bad relationship with his new race engineer, because during the Australian Grand Prix race, his engineer said something after the race saying, "Okay, good job, you drove well," and Hamilton took 5 minutes to answer his question, and I deem it to say that he's shown a little bit of frustration and fallout to his engineer. It's only the first race, you know, the first time they've been together, and they're already putting out stuff like that. So look, I'm glad that Lewis calls it out, because you don't really see Lewis call out in the interview. You don't really see him, you know, especially when he's talking to Sky. You never really see him call anything out. He's always nice to the interviewers and all that, and he don't really cause any grief. And I'm glad what he said in the interview as well. He said, while the other drivers with abusive and hateful language, you know exactly who he's talking about, by the way, Max Verstappen, exactly who he's talking about. You know, the way he's always spitting his dummy out the pram, swearing and all that on live television. Yeah. And he don't get no bother. But as soon as he stays quiet for like 5 minutes on the radio, when his race engineer says good job, there's pure negativity.
So what's so negative about saying good job?
No. Basically, yeah, the engineer said good job, but Lewis Hamilton didn't respond straight away. Like, basically, what they're trying to say that Lewis Hamilton is really, really frustrated, and the basic falling out, and that's what the media is trying to say.
I think we've got it here on the screen. You can have a look. This is what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
So, for the iTunes people listening, we're just talking about. We're going through what happened at regarding his team radio. I didn't really know about all this, but it says Chinese Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton responds to team radio criticism, and what you've just explained about. Basically, they said Lewis Hamilton has hit back at those who criticised the radio exchange between Ferrari Racing Ninja and Riccardo Adami, which is his radio guy. And it says that his communication will get stronger race to race. What's wrong with that? So what they're saying now, the basic what they're saying is they're criticising Lewis for having an attitude towards his team radio.
Yeah,
is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lewis Hamilton basically hinted about other drivers swearing at their radio guy.
Yeah, probably hinted to Max.
Yeah, he was hinting, obviously. We don't know on his channel, but obviously he's hinting to Max Verstappen.
Well, if you think about it, I don't know if I'm going out of context, But if you think about it, right, Verstappen, every single race without fail shows attitude to his race engineer.
And he gets lauded for it.
But they don't talk about that, you see.
No, okay, we're not going to get into all that. I know what you're saying. We know how it is. We know how it is, yeah. We know how it goes. So I've got the schedule for people on, if you want to listen to it on the podcast, I've got a schedule of the sprint weekend. I'll say it out for the people listening to on audio. So this is the sprint weekend. So the first sprint weekend is China. Second one will be on Miami, which will be May the 2nd to the 4th. Miami. Why would they have? This is what I'm talking about, right? Why would they have a Miami GP? Fair enough. 0 overtakes. Have a sprint weekend there at Miami. It does not make any sense because Miami, you cannot overtake. It's a typical street track. Once you're in front, you've won. So I don't understand why they're having a sprint weekend at Miami, but we'll move. That's the second one of the year. Third one, Belgium, I agree. Brilliant track to overtake. Fourth, United States. Yep, you can overtake there in parts. And November, Sao Paulo, which is Brazil, which is good. I agree. And Qatar. Not sure about that one. That's a bit hard to overtake, but we're having it there. That's the schedule for 2025. 1, 2, 3, 4, sort of 6. So I'll go over it again. Chinese Grand Prix, Miami, Belgium, United States, Austin, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Qatar. There will be the six sprint weekends. I wish we could have more, but they're having 6 because maybe people can't stop moaning. A lot of drivers don't like the sprint weekend because they think it's silly, but it ain't silly.
I like it.
The fans like it.
So that's it, man. For the fans end of the day.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it, bro. Let's read the chat before we depart. In my opinion, Ferrari should be signed. Should have signed Peter. Who's Peter? Peter who?
Probably. I think Peter
Bonington. Peter Bonington. You mean Bono?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bono didn't. But I think regarding that question, Waniak, I think they offered they offered Bono a bigger position at Mercedes, a higher position with more money, and that tempted him to stay there. But Bono should have went to Ferrari. I agree. One up regarding what you said, Toto. You want to read that, bro?
Verstappen, if he doesn't get his way, he will lash out, and he never says he had a bad race.
Yeah,
that's like I said about the interview. You see Verstappen spitting his dummy out the pram, and let's face it, he's the only driver who actually does that. I guess there's a couple of drivers. I'm not seeing like Max. Yeah, there's a couple of drivers that does that, but the one that's always, without fail, every single race, it's Max showing that attitude to his race engineer. As soon as Lewis does it, it's a complete outrage.
It gets loaded up.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, true what you're saying, Wally. Okay, true what you're saying.
Yeah, as soon as he does it, as soon as Max Verstappen swears in the cockpit, the journalists load him up. Nothing happens. Everybody gets on with the job. And because Lewis said something which for me wasn't that bad, right? He just said, the only thing I remember when he was speaking to him, he was saying stuff like, we missed that opportunity there, guys. We could have done better. He says, yes, I know. Leave me to it, please. All he said is, leave me to it, please. I hear drivers say that every single week. Every driver say that every single week. Leave it to me. What about Yuki Tsunoda? Yuki Tsunoda says he's very abusive on the radio. People forget about that, No little Yuki Tsunoda. He's very abusive to his engineer. And because Lewis said, this is what Lewis said. Yes, I know. Leave it to me. And he also said, this is what his race engineer says, try to hold the K1 just for practice. I know it's difficult. And he goes, I'm not close enough. When I'm close, I'll do it. What is wrong with that? I don't understand. These guys are driving at 200 miles per hour. And parts of the track, they're driving at 200 miles per hour. This guy, Lewis Hamilton, this is the first time he has been on this in this car, properly racing competitively. He's been driving in the Mercedes engine since he came into Formula One in 2007. And this is the first time in his whole history of driving that he's driving a Ferrari-powered car. Different settings. It feels different. Everything's in a different place. He has to learn everything over again. It's like him coming into F1 for the first time. He has to learn everything over again. It's all right for Charles. Charles has been at this Ferrari for 7 years. He's been at Ferrari for nearly 7 years. So it's all right for Charles. And I'm not knocking Charles because I love Charles. Charles is one of my favorite drivers, but the media never go into context. All they say is, there you go, Lewis Hamilton's got beat by Charles Leclerc. What do you expect Lewis just to come in and just go, oh yeah, he's fine, I'm going to beat him? It doesn't work that way in Formula One. It does not work like that in Formula One. But if you look at the practice sessions, Lewis Hamilton in practice 1, 2, and 3, he was gaining on Charles Leclerc. Every single practice, he was gaining in time. Give him about 6, 7 races and we'll see what happens then, innit? But what it is, the media, I said this to you, Toto, before we leave. I'm sorry for going on as a monologue.
Yes, sir.
I said this to you, Toto, at the beginning of the season. You saw all them journalists bigging up Lewis Hamilton. And I said to you, as soon as the season starts, they will turn just like that. They will find anything. They'll say, oh, look at this. Look at Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc's beating him. Lewis Hamilton losing against Charles again. Losing. And you could see it now. It happens every single year. What about when he was with Mercedes? When they brought in George Russell? When Lewis was beating George Russell, zip. When he wasn't beating Lewis Hamilton, that. Yeah. When George was beating Lewis Hamilton, that was the media. Tap, 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 mouthing. But as soon as Lewis Hamilton was beating George Russell, quiet. There was nothing, but we move, man. We know how it is. We know how it is. Waniak says, before we go, Lewis was at McLaren, then Mercedes, now Ferrari. What a career, the GOAT just needs an 8th. To me, he's already got the 8th. 2021, for me, he's an 8-time world champion, in my opinion. He got robbed. They admit it was a human error, and that's it. They said at the end, I'm sorry, it was our fault, it was a human error. So basically, he's an 8-time world champion, but just not in name. But in my opinion, he's already an 8-time world champion, but big up to Waniak. Yeah, Waniak, and what you said there, he says Lewis was at McLaren, the Mercedes, but he always drove a Mercedes-powered unit, because when he was at McLaren, it was a Mercedes engine.
Yeah.
We got to Waniak. So, yeah. So, Toto, anything you want to say before we leave?
I was going to say, thanks for joining. Of course, you're watching the replay.
Come on, man, let's go.
Come
Come on, man. It's all right, man.
But yeah, just check out our channels, man. Of course, this would be on iTunes. This would be on Spotify. Just search Solo P1F1 podcast. Of course, it's our podcast as well.
We're gonna put it on there now.
So
no, it's called the Flaming Tarmac now.
The
name's changed.
Yeah, the Flaming Tarmac. So go check that out. There's going to be videos, of course, with Solo, because the majority before even joined Flaming Tarmac, it was all Solo doing the Flaming Tarmac, but now we're starting to do majority of them now all together doing Flaming Tarmac, so which would be good. You see us, you can listen to us in Solo when you're in your car, and your phone, and your tablet, well, whatever, man, on your MP3 player. To still have those now. Yeah, let's go on your iPod, whatever. Go check us out on there. We're on Spotify and
that's it, man.
Podbean, whatever you want to.
Podbean, Stitcher. Anyway, yeah. So big up to everybody. Big up to the man them. Big up to the woman them. Thank you for joining us on this F1 Flaming Tarmac episode 64. It's the Chinese Sprint weekend, guys. And for everybody on iTunes and Stitcher, remember to recommend the audio as well. It really helps us out in the algorithm regarding iTunes and the YouTube, guys. Remember to smack that like button. Smack that like button. And that's it, man. Big up to you. And hit subscribe as well. Big up to you. Big up to Waniak. Peace up. Big up. Let's just put some music on before we go, and then we'll head off. And for everybody, I was going to put something on them, but I ain't going to bother. So big up to everybody. See you later, guys. I'll put the countdown and then I'll put the thing on. See you later, guys. Bye.